Okay, we're ready?
Yes, sir.
Well, howdy, folks. I would like to introduce Kiki Corry, our presenter this evening. Kiki is the Project Wild Coordinator for Texas Parks and Wildlife. She trains and supports the Texas Project Wild facilitators. She's a professional educator, chairs the Texas Environmental Education Advisory Committee, and is the 2022-23 president of the Science Teacher Association of Texas. Kiki notes that she's been engaged in connecting folks with their natural world for more than 3 decades. She's also known for chasing children in the woods and wrangling them in the classroom. I know a little bit about Kiki, and from where I sit, Kiki's contribution as a Project Wild coordinator has been multiplied by hundreds of Project Wild facilitators all across the state of Texas. So I want to welcome Kiki.
Well, thank you. And you didn't say anything mean at all. I wasn't scared. So, yes, it's so good to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So, let's see if I can get this thing to work. There we go. I'll just jump straight in. And so Project Wild is a program of Texas Parks and Wildlife. It may be new to some of you. Others I know could be leading this presentation themselves. And probably a lot of you are kind of in the middle. It's an internationally distributed resource. Basically, it's training that includes one of these 3 books. And the books are full of activities that can be used with children or the general public. And the training is in this workshop shows you how to use the activities and just the right one for any particular situation, whether that's a class of kiddos sitting on the floor of a library or families in a festival or an after-school club. So that's what Project Wild is. Y'all have a long history of helping with programs at Hardberger Park using Wild. You can talk to Wendy Drezick if you want to know more about that. And then she and I were just chatting earlier. Project Wild has come out with a module that is specific to climate change. And what they did is they took 8 activities, pulled them from the 2 K-12 books, the Project Wild and Aquatic Wild, and also 1 activity out of Flying Wild. And they put them together with the climate strategy and adaptation, climate education. All right, I'll get it right. Climate education and adaptation strategy. There's 8 goals, and they aligned these. They found activities that address those goals, and they put it in a module. And so that's something that until May, I can put on free workshops for that with just those 8. So that's what Project Wild is overall. And without further ado, I just want to show you an example of how Project Wild works. So we're going to do an activity called First Impressions, and we're going to use the chat feature of Zoom. So go ahead and pull your chat up, and I'm going to show you a picture. And you type the very first feeling that pops into your head when you see the picture. And it might be ew, or it might be cool, or it might be wow. But don't hit send in the chat until I tell you to. That way nobody can see or copy anybody else's word until we see everyone's. It'll be fun, I promise. I've done this before. So, okay, remember, you're going to type your first gut response, and then you're going to wait till I say go. Got it? All right, picture. Giving you a minute to type into the chat. You're typing your very first word. All right. 1, 2, 3, go. Hit send. Look at all these words coming up. Sweetness and awe and peaceful. Fawn and mom. Bambi. I love it. Good. So everybody said good. So I would like to hear if you could you can unmute yourself and What is sweet about this picture? Somebody tell me. Explain me why sweet is a good word.
Mother and child.
It's a mother and child, yes, and that always like warms your heart, right? Cool. What do so there are a few ahs, and ah can be ah or like so. What kind of ah was it?
Wildlife majesty.
Ah, so it was kind of an awe with an e on the end, sort of inspiring kind of an awe. Any other kind of ahs that we had? I
Awe,
noticed
as in tenderness.
tenderness, back to the mom and baby kind of sweetness, right? Bob, you said good. You mean eating?
No, it's just good. I mean, this is a species that's reproducing itself, and
Okay.
it's out there,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and
Okay,
it's good.
cool. I will tell you, I did show this picture at this very exact same um, activity to uh, it was at an ag science convention, and it was a lot of people who teach hunter ed and stuff, and most of them put things like yum. Uh, there were a few who were into ag who were like, this is bad. Um, but anyway, so this one overall with this particular audience is all good, right? All right, so I'm going to show another one and we'll do the same thing. So here we go. Go thing. There we go. First impression. Okay, go. Cool, prickly, proud, majestic, cool. Oh, super cool. Of course, we are here with a bunch of master naturalists, so you would expect that you would think that a Texas horned lizard was cool, yes? Very super cool. Nice. All right, how about this one? Okay, go. Thirsty and watch out and wow. He does look very casual. I wanted to go back to that uh, horned lizard. Uh, Wendy, why did you say proud?
I thought that's how he was feeling.
Oh,
And
because the way
we just had Gene Hackett do a lovely little acting out horned lizard. So,
okay, okay, that makes sense. The way he was holding his head up, it was proud. I know that there have been some recovery efforts made at zoos, and I couldn't remember the San Antonio Zoo was one of them. Fort Worth is, I think.
yes, yeah, we are.
So there's some pride in that too, and that we're doing good by them. Oh, Jeanette says bear is not a usual sight in your neighborhood. Hold that thought, because well, I'm going to loop back around to that. All right, let's do another one. Okay, go. We got uh-oh, an aquifer, an amazing and blind salamander, which, yes, that's what it is. And it is super cute. Or were you talking about the bear being super cute, Lana? Interesting. Both. Yes. Blind, but it survives. Yeah. Yeah, so there's something inspiring about something that can overcome being blind and everything. All right, we'll do another one. Okay, go. It does look like he's dancing. Bob, why do you say careful?
Did you ask me a question?
Yeah, why did you say careful?
He looks tentative. He's got one leg raised up and he looks like he's not sure what he wants to do.
Oh, okay. So
Or
he's
she
kind of
doesn't want to, or he or she or whatever.
right, right. It's kind of hard to tell. Yeah. So it's interesting because Emily saw that as tap dancing, and Stan said balanced, and then you interpreted his movement as tentative almost, right?
Yes.
So that's cool. I love it. I love the different interpretations of the same picture. Okay, how about this one? Okay, go. Ready, set, go. Take a nap. Yeah. It was really hard to find a good picture of these dudes. And then I realized that all the pictures are like with super far distance cameras. You zoom in, they get all granulated anyway, but because that's how they are. Majestic and iconic. I like iconic. Ready, set, go. Taking off. Yeah. So we've gone from having sort of that emotional response of the deer to almost kind of more interpreting what we're seeing and naming it. And I think that that's kind of an interesting approach. So this activity is called being it's first impressions, and it's in both Growing Up Wild and Project Wild. And in Growing Up Wild, it's about teaching young children how to express emotion and acknowledge that others may have different emotions. The little guys are learning how to regulate emotions. Like, you're not born doing that, and they spend those. That's why you get the temper tantrums at 2, is they're learning how to regulate their emotions. And so this is an activity that helps them with that. In Project Wild, it's more about learning about the animals themselves, and knowing more can change, and how knowing more can change your opinion of things. It even has a social science aspect where you count the positive and negative responses at the beginning, and you do some teaching about the animals, and then you do the same viewing of images again and compare whether or not the opinions had changed. So it involves graphing and calculating. You can imagine that the teachers love it because they can teach math and science at the same time. What we did was kind of a mashup between Project Wild and Growing Up Wild version. But did you notice I didn't say, be nice and listen to opposing opinions? No, we just practiced doing it all together. And I didn't say, if you knew more, you wouldn't think that. No, we just listened to each other. We listened to what each other was thinking and talking about it. And if we had wanted to change our minds, we could have, and it would have been very free. So that's how Wild teaches without telling. Um, I selected these animals specifically for another purpose. But when I do it, like in general with kids, I'll have bunny rabbits and deer and coyotes and a rat snake or something, and then we'll talk about how some people love bunnies because they're cute, 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 but then also they demolish your garden, right? Um, or how the rat snake seems very scary when you first see him, but then when you realize it mostly just eats rats and keeps, the little critters from running in your house, then that's kind of good. So that kind of thing. Um, so do y'all have any questions or want to make any comments before we move on? Okay.
Kiki, I had a question. Is
Yeah.
this because we're having a Project Wild thing for the zoo I think it's on the 21st next week, and I'm
Mhm.
kind of impressed with these pictures. And I was thinking about using this as an icebreaker rather than the other idea I had, which was asking everybody to name an animal that they identified with. And I'm kind of intrigued with this.
It makes a really nice icebreaker because one thing is it lets everybody in the room know that it's okay for them to feel and think what they want because you're doing a growing up wild at the zoo. So
Right.
you would do the growing up wild version, which instead of doing words, you have smiley faces, frowny faces, and so faces around the room. You show the picture and you let them go to whichever smiley, frowny, so face that they think, and then they talk about why they went to that part of the room. So yeah, it works really well. These pictures that I took, that I have, I pulled off of the Texas Parks and Wildlife photo archive that I have access to. But if you, I can share with you the version that I've done with children and with teachers of young children. Um,
Well,
so
this would be for teachers of young children, but I
right,
think this is a kind of a better way to do this rather than the original idea I had was to identify with an animal, just show them a picture and get their responses to make them think of how they would, what does that evoke, and
hmm
how the children that they teach to anticipate what that would evoke, if I'm making
right,
myself clear.
yeah, and well, and it's another way of finding out what kind of prior knowledge they have. For instance, when I did it with the agriculture teachers, and I put the golden cheek warbler up, um, some of them went to the frowny face, and some of them went to the smiley face. The smiley face ones all said, "That's a really pretty bird." And I said, "Yes, it is." "Why did you guys go to the frowny face ones?" And they said, "Because we had to get a bird letter in order to do some construction, and it really was a pain in the patootie, and that is the bird." I went, "Alrighty then." So then you know where your audience is, right?
Okay,
So,
speaks for
so
itself.
yeah, so it's a really good way of finding out kind of where your teachers are. I did it once with, they were early childhood educators, and there was one who was scared of everything. She was scared of the butterflies. She was scared of the bunnies. I was like, "Why are you in this workshop?" And she finally said, "I know that my fear is irrational. I don't want to teach that to my children. So you asked me to respond how I feel. That's how I feel. I'm trying to learn how to not do that to my kids." And I was just like, "You are a better person than I am. That's tough." So yeah, so I think it's very powerful that way, and you would be demonstrating one of the activities that's in the book. So good call.
Okay, sounds
All right,
good.
yeah. So that, and it's called First Impressions, which I still have up. All right, now I'm going to move on to this other one, which I am really very excited about. Kind of scared, but excited, scared. So this is a scary one for me, but not for you. Well, it might be, but interview a spider is an activity that's meant to give you some background knowledge about specific species. Um, the reason it's scary for me is because I'm going to send you into breakout rooms and I can't follow you into the breakout rooms. And also, you have to be able to um, uh, access some research information online. And I'm just like hoping that that all works for you. So anyway, in this activity is meant to give you some background knowledge about animals. So this is the kind of thing that you often would see delivered like as a lecture or an assigned reading or something like that, but this is not the wild way. In this activity, you're going to get into small groups in the breakout rooms, and each group will prepare a Texas Parks and Wildlife TV-worthy 2-minute interview to find out more about the animal. And one person is going to be the reporter, and the other person is going to be the animal. And the interviewer can take on any kind of role. You could be live during a hurricane. You could be a sportscaster. You could be the anchor in the newsroom, whatever you like. The animal has to respond as if they are the actual animal and they happen to speak English. If there's more than 2 of you in a room, you can have 2 animals or 2 reporters, but everyone gets to speak. And of course, you have to find something in your space around you that looks like a microphone so that you can hold it up and speak into it, and any other props that will make it more credible or more hilarious or however you want to take it. So I'm going to put a document in, a link to a document in the chat. Wait, no, I have to find it. Come on. Where'd it go? It's hiding behind my Zoom window. Come on, dude. It really is truly hiding behind the Zoom window, and it does not want to come out. Okay. There it is. All right. So I'm putting it in the chat. And this should take you to a document that has a bunch of links in it. So I want to make sure that everybody can get to that and can open those links before we break into the rooms. So you can give me a thumbs up or something when you've got it. Let's see if I get the participants up. I'm looking for thumbs ups. And also speak up like if it's not working. Okay, Jeanette got it. Yay. Lana got it. Just took a minute. Okay.
All right, do you want me to pause the recording while you go to breakout or what?
Yeah. Once we get into the breakout rooms, it will get very boring. In fact, you might as well, yeah, go
Okay.
ahead and pause it now.
Okay.
Okay. And so now we are ready to for the filming of the Texas Parks and Wildlife TV show, where we will be interviewing a Texas horned lizard and a white-nosed coati. But I don't know which one's first. Who would like to go first?
I go first.
Okay, so Bob and Lana and Blanca?
Let's see, I'm trying to,
Yeah, you have to open your video and unmute yourself.
I'm good. All right, I think I'm ready to go.
All right, Lana, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, but your coati is not. She is still muted.
I'm still muted.
No, Bob, you're good to go. But where's your animal?
The coati's here. It's Lana.
All right. Okay. All right, I turn it over to you.
Well, this is what I learned about white-nosed coati. They do live in Texas. They're down there in the Rio Grande Valley. Probably 300 years ago, they were quite more prevalent in the area, but they've moved down or exist down south. They're pretty prevalent in Puerto Rico. They travel in bands of 5 to 20. The males are solitary. The females travel together with their young. They're omnivores, and they like berries. They're also pollinators. They have a very good sense of smell, and they're kind of like armadillos. They can smell stuff below the ground. They dig it up. They eat grubs. Any kind of insect that is in the larval stage, I would presume, they'll dig those up and eat those.
So Lana Kawadi, would you eat any kind of larva?
Would I eat what?
Any kind of insect larva? What's your favorite?
My favorite? Grubs, just any sort of grub. I love that. The whole reason my name is White-Nosed Coati is that my nose is white and it's really long, so I can stick it down under the dirt, find all those bugs, find little snakes. I eat fruit. I love nectar. Any sort of bug. Beetles probably is my favorite.
Ah, beetles, they make great grubs. Yes.
So our white-nosed coati is an insectivore, and a carnivore, and an omnivore. So he or she is multi-purpose, and not sure where they. I got the sense that they burrow in the ground and for shelter for their.
You should ask. You should
I
ask
did
your
ask,
Kawadi.
but I did ask, but we weren't sure. The coati
So-
wasn't quite sure.
Miss White-Nosed Coati, she does like living in the forest because it's nice and dark. So I can find places in there to burrow and to den, but I'm also made for climbing in the trees. I have a really nice long tail that helps me balance on the branches. And I also use that tail for signaling. So I can hold my tail straight up and it can signal for, like, if I have my babies walking behind me, that, hey, this is the way we need to go.
Very cool. So is there anything either of you would like to say to wrap this one up?
I think coatis are very versatile. The reason why they're in decline in Texas is just due to loss of habitat. Probably farming, and they've just kind of been pushed out of the area. That would be my thought.
You can go visit some of my relatives at the San Antonio Zoo. They are living there. If you want to see what one looks like.
All right. Thank you so much, Lana Kawadi and Bob.
Yay!
Yay! All right. And so now to hear from the Texas horned lizard.
Ants, ants, ants.
And that is what you like to eat.
I am an absolute antarian.
And what kind of ants are your favorite?
Only harvester. I
Just
don't
harvester.
like those crazy ants. I don't like those fire ants. They are hurting my diet. I have a very careful diet plan. I am a harvester antarian.
Okay. And what do you do on your time off?
Oh, I just meddle around with things. In the day, I like to sun. After all, I've got my complexion to take care of. And at night, I like to snooze, but I'm a bit of an iconoclast. And sometimes I just decide to snooze during the day as well.
And why do they call you a horned lizard?
Well, it's the way my head looks. Some people think it's ugly. I happen to think it's absolutely stupendo.
Okay. And now, can you climb, or do you mostly stay on the ground?
Well, I'm mostly on the ground. I'm a little bit of a lazy horned lizard. Look, you got to be what you got to be.
That's absolutely correct. We're all individual, even if we're
Especially
horned.
me. I'm
Yeah.
especially individual.
Now, do you lay eggs or do you have live young?
Oh my goodness. I haven't gotten into that yet. I'm just a baby.
You're too
horned lizard.
young. You're just too young to approach that subject.
Yes.
Okay.
We don't talk about that yet. I'm very innocent.
Okay. My train derailed. It happens a lot.
Well, I can tell you, you may think I am pretty innocent looking, but if you try to scare me, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to shoot blood out of my eyes. And if that doesn't scare you away, nothing will.
When my screen changed. Hi, Jeanette. I completely derailed.
Well, I think you did a
Funny stuff.
marvelous job interviewing
And I think
the
I did a
lizard.
particularly marvelous job.
I could see the horned lizard right there coming from within. And I was scared of the blood shooting from your eyes.
I got into my inner lizard.
Excellent. Well done.
That was just both groups. You were just so great, so entertaining, and so wonderful.
And each took a completely different take on that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. There we go. Share. And then it covers up all of my notes because that's what it likes to do. Here we go. All right. So that that was just another example of how we might teach rather than tell about those critters. You may have noticed that the species in the interviews were of particular interest here in Central Texas. I got them off the Rare and Threatened and Endangered County webpage for Bexar County. So those are actually threatened and endangered species that have been recorded in Bexar County. And on that document that had the links on it, that top one is to that page where you can see what critters have are where. Anyways, so anyway, besides learning a bit more about the animals, there was that other layer of context. And when I think it was Jeanette who said when we were looking at the animals, the bears, you don't often see them in the San Antonio area. That is true, you don't. And yet, for some reason, they were listed on your county list. So apparently, they are around. Who knew? I was surprised to see them there too. So we all learned something. I hope that gave you a taste of what teaching rather than telling looks like. I did not spend a lot of this time lecturing. I spent a lot of this time letting y'all talk to each other, and y'all, it was very interactive, more interactive than probably you were expecting. And that's kind of how Project Wild is. It is actually more fun and easier, in my opinion, to share what we love using that kind of teaching. So with that, I'm going to put this one up. You can always contact me if you have thoughts or questions about Project Wild. You can definitely ask Wendy or Bob or Michelle Darnell, or there's a bunch of other people in your chapter who can show you their books, help you host a workshop. They can lead it, so all they have to do is say, hey, we've decided to do a workshop over here, and I'll back them up. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And did anybody have any questions, comments, or anything? We got 6 minutes left. Just feel free to unmute and.
I have a
Thank
question.
you.
Go ahead. There was somebody who was speaking before me, so go
I
ahead.
just said thank you to Kiki.
Glad to be here with y'all.
Kiki, my question is how do you feel about Project Wild going forward? You know, the pandemic really kind of screwed things up for a lot of people, a lot of schools and all that kind of stuff. I just want to know your opinion and
So-
what can, and I guess my my bottom line question is what can Texas Master Naturalists do to further the cause, if that's the right word?
Right. So one thing is you can always host workshops, and I get sort of a regular trickle of people requesting workshops in San Antonio. And of course, that's a humongous city. So anytime you guys want to host one and provide that service for the educators in your area, that's absolutely something y'all can do. As far as the larger picture, I think that at the beginning of the pandemic, people were just holding on for dear life, and mostly trying to survive, literally. Um, we've kind of gotten beyond the holding on for dear life part, but there is kind of a continuing stress. I don't know of a single district that isn't understaffed. I don't know of a single district that isn't using long-term subs. Their regular substitutes are filling long-term sub positions, and they don't have regular substitutes. And they're like, I know of one in particular where if a teacher doesn't show up, they just put those kids into somebody else's classroom to sit because they can't leave the kids by themselves in the classroom. I mean, just, it's rough there. It's rough. That being said, there are a lot of, because a lot of the very skilled teachers are not there, there's a lot of people holding teaching positions that need support. But when you're paddling as hard as you can't always reach up and grab for support. But I think that in the next couple of years, Project Wild will become in particular demand because these educators who are now in teaching positions that hadn't been before are going to start getting the training that they need. And so I think Project Wild will be very much in demand and very much needed. And one of the ways that I think Project Wild is special is that it speaks to your lighthearted inner lizardness. It brings laughter into the lessons. It's not dry, and so then will support them in that other realm, in the social emotional realm. Is Project Wild is really good for that as well. And so those two things together, I think that now is the time for Project Wild to be preparing itself for a boom. And so I'm very hopeful for it. And I'm very hopeful that when the teachers do finally struggle out of this really, really rough situation, they're going to be brilliant in ways that we don't even know. Like we were talking earlier about how, 3 years ago we were all dragged kicking and screaming into remote networking and learning, and now we just pick up a Zoom like it's no big deal. The tools that we're learning now, I think, are going to serve us very well into the future.
A follow-up question, Kiki, is that do you see, and I'm not trying to catch you on the spot or anything like that. You may want to give some more thought about this, but do you see Texas Master Naturalists, particularly the Alamo area chapter, as a organization for outreach for Project Wild? And let me preface this by this one point, and this is just a one little point. I had an opportunity to meet the principal of Callison Elementary School maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and I described to him about Project Wild, and he seemed mildly interested, but not very interested.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think Project Wild is a great program. I think it's stellar. So do you see Texas Master Naturalists as being an arm for outreach, and if we are, how would you approach that? And I'm not
I-
trying to hold you on the spot here.
No, that's all right. I think you definitely are. I think that you can use Project Wild in two ways. One, you can use it in your programming and supporting after school clubs or going in and doing presentations in classrooms. Um, uh, that kind of thing. You can use it. You can also offer workshops and provide the professional development. You have enough connections in the community that there are sites that if you said, we'd like to do this thing here, that they would say, of course, So because you are such an established chapter and because you have many people in many different layers of expertise in Project Wild, I think you're a super rich resource. I think probably the principal was not super responsive because he probably had some other things on his mind, like how many
I'm
classrooms
sure
had no
that he
subs
did.
in them, that kind of thing. So I think that we have to be patient with them. I think we have to establish relationships, partnerships, collaborative, just being there when they ask and like not like just kind of knowing when to offer and when to kind of relax and let them deal with what they have to deal with and not take it personally because they're dealing with a lot of stuff. And I think that as long as we maintain those relationships and they know you're there and they know you're solid, that when they're ready to accept the kind of help that you have, you'll have that ready for them. And it's probably not going to be this year. It might be next year. I will tell you that the new science standards play very, very well into what we like to do because they're heavy on the scientific and engineering practices, thinking about how you do things, not just memorizing stuff, not doing cookbook things, but designing them yourself. The verbs in the standards are not just observe, but they're interpret. So it's the kind of stuff that Project Wild is really, really good at, and those will go into effect in the 2024-2025 school year. So we've got a whole another year, but the teachers are beginning to recognize that they're going to need to get training to figure out how to do this thing. And we know how to do the thing. So we just have to be there beside them so that whenever they're finally ready to look up and go, I need help with this, we're there. So just keep the relationships, keep it friendly, keep it light, and wait, because I think it's coming.
Okay. Well, that's
Sounds like a strategic planning opportunity for activities, Bob.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, I had a follow-up question.
Mhm.
And, as Kiki, as you know, I'm pretty new to Project Well. I'm very interested, my target audience is adolescents,
Mhm.
middle school and high school students.
Mhm.
And I don't see a lot of activity from my point of view. And so there's a lot of education associated with elementary school age children. And so what do you think is the buy-in from high school teachers and middle school teachers for Project Well? Or if you, and I'm just asking an open question, if you're prepared to answer that.
Well, so I mean, it's very appealing to the elementary level because those teachers are interdisciplinary, and if you can give them something that they teach science while they're teaching English or math, they're all over that. So that's why it goes well there. But the activities themselves and their content are more to middle, they're more upward, they're more rigorous. So you're right, that is kind of a conundrum. I have seen it most actively used at the high school level in like after school clubs and the what do they call it now? Career technology engineering classes, the ones that have ag science in them.
Yeah. And I have
those
a
kind of
term,
classes are very, very interested in wild.
right.
So the straight up biology ones, not so much, but now with the teacher shortage, there's a shortage in high school too. And, somebody who's been teaching chemistry has suddenly been tossed into teaching aquatic science. They're like, whoa, they need aquatic wild, right? Or somebody who is teaching biology has been asked to pick up AP environmental science. And, if they know biology and that was their strength, environmental science is a real stretch for them. And so I think that that's probably the best niche for the upper levels, is finding the teachers that need to be multi-purpose, and coaches who end up teaching some science class because they had to teach something academic, for their position teaching soccer. If they're going to get stuck in a science class, they might as well have something like Project Wild in their background. But it is a very different audience that you have to think about. You can't just go, "Wow, it's interdisciplinary and fun." That's not
Right,
going to sell it to the.
Right, right.
So
I understand.
yeah, you and I can maybe do a little brainstorming offline about
Well, you've already
ways.
given me a lot of ideas.
Okay, well, good. Good. I look forward to seeing what you do with them. All right, I think we should probably wrap this up because we are now 7 minutes over the hour.